Sharks in the pool, that is not cool. I need the tools, take me to school. Feet first into this league, me first, that cannot be. Under the underdog, Monica G. Feeling a whole lot better suddenly. I get in with it, winning again. You're 1 and 2 in the bag, and I'm going for 3. That is the beat down. God of the best, so I keep. Now, y'all treading water for weeks. Now I'm the shark, so I eat. Now, look, I am not sorry. I understood the pump from which I started. And navigating these drafts is cathartic. So, thanks for the invite to party, yeah. Dynasty Underdog, bite down. Up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now. Dynasty Underdog, bite down. Up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 147 of Dynasty Underdog. I'm your host, Gerard Dawkins. Join with me tonight, Billy Beeman, Josh Goldberg. How's it going, guys?
Good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. You know, tomorrow's my birthday. So,
Hey.
you know, the older you get, the less it matters. But, like, still, you know, when it's that time, you're like, all right, like, the wife is not going to ask me to do anything, you know, no chores, no nothing. So, you know, it's not going to be some big party. I'm not going to go out on a rage or anything, but I get to, like, for sure relax and then have whatever dinner I want. So
how old was that though?
Oh God, 38.
Wow. I mean, you're looking sharp for 38, brother.
Oh, thanks,
it's all good, man.
I'm wondering if the light hairs in my beard are gray or just blonde, but
we'll go with blonde, right? We'll go with blonde.
I'm hoping. But yeah, no, life's good, so that's good.
Cool, man.
Awesome.
Let's hop into some news and nonsense. So this happened like shortly after I think we recorded last week, so didn't make it on our sheet last week. It seems like the news is really old, but DeAndre Hopkins was released from the Cardinals, and ever since then it's been like DeAndre Hopkins, you know, watch, like where's he going to go? Like you see like the Instagram photos, like oh he was spotted in Houston, oh he was spotted in Philly, like you know. It's fun. He still has a lot of juice in the tank. Like last year, when he came back from suspension, he was balling out, right?
I feel like we're gonna see he was in the Miami airport with the picture of like Larry Fitzgerald thing or whatever.
Oh my God!
I can't believe nobody's done that already. I mean, I'm sure they have.
They probably have.
Yeah, absolutely. I just got done. I was just telling Josh before we hopped on. I just got done doing a video for DFF on the DeAndre Hopkins release, just like a quick reaction video. Like you said, it's a couple days, week, whatever, after, had some time to digest. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for Marquise Brown left over with D-Hop leaving. Obviously, D-Hop is the big story, and wherever he goes, and it's really Buffalo and KC are the big suitors. Patriots want him, but he doesn't want the Patriots. So what the hell are we doing? So, you know, obviously, if you have the option between Kansas City and Buffalo, that's big news. But I was looking at it, and just Marquise Brown was electric and elite, like wide receiver 5, wide receiver 7 in points per game. The first 6 games of the season with D-Hop out, right? And obviously no Kyler Murray and all that, but everybody's telling me Kyler Murray could make it back for the season. So,
oh my God.
I'm pretty much doing a short of my video right now for you guys, but there's a lot of opportunity there. He's been great. So he's wide receiver. What was it? Wide receiver 38, if I remember correctly. I don't know, something ridiculous where he's like in the end of the 7th round. That's the story to me right here for Dynasty. Like, go ahead and get you some Marquise Brown before everybody catches on.
I mean, are you able to still buy him, or you think he's overpriced?
That's a good question.
It depends. I think that there's some players I can look at the rankings right now and tell you. I think there's some players you could probably sell for him plus, and that's kind of what I would be looking to do, right? Like, could you sell Debo for Marquise Brown plus? DJ Moore for Marquise Brown plus, Chris Godwin, Marquise Brown plus. Like, could you get those kind of deals done? And I think you could, like, if you could add like people like to, we were just talking about it's the offseason, get your 2nd round picks, right? People just like to throw those things in. So maybe go out there, try to get a 2nd round pick on top of one of those guys. He's 25 going on 26. I mean, that's another 4 years of prime production.
Yeah.
And he's in a free agent year. Like, the kid's going to try to ball out. Let's be honest, right? He's, no matter what the situation is, if he's healthy, he's great. So I don't know. I was just looking at his profile, kind of looking at the other guys there. I mean, Rondale Moore, interesting. Michael Wilson, interesting. Sure. But we know what Marquise Brown is, and he's cheaper than he should be. So before everybody catches on, before his price goes up too high, I'd go out and grab him.
I like that.
Yeah.
And with the stud passer like Clayton Tune thrown to him, it's gonna be awesome.
Yes, thank you. Oh my God, that's why I love doing the show with you. It's beautiful.
All right, some more news. Jimmy G failed his physical, I guess a couple months back, and it's still not determined yet if he's going to be able to pass his physical. That's sparked some Tom Brady possibly going to the Raiders type news, which we all know is hogwash, and he came out and said he's definitely not playing, which I think we kind of all knew at this point. But I mean, are you concerned if Jimmy G's like your, I don't know, QB2, QB3 in Superflex, are you concerned about him not, having a place to play this year? Or do you think he's inevitably going to pass his physical?
No, he'll end up passing his physical. He's who they want there. I mean, this whole thing I think is blown way out of proportion. He'll be back by training camp and be fine.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I definitely agree too. I think all of this, he failed his physical. So, that's not great, let's be honest. But for the Raiders and why the news came out, it's all about the contract. Like they basically just got to pay him a lot less or push the money ahead. So it's a lot more advantageous for the team. That's kind of what's happening there. For me, though, I hadn't really digested it enough, or I just hadn't thought about it in this way I think other people are going to probably be worried about it. You could probably get Jimmy G really cheap right now, really, really cheap. So it's probably an opportunity to go out there and throw a third and some rookie that people are excited about and go get Jimmy G.
I like that a lot. All right, next one, Breece Hall. This is a quote from Robert Saleh in one of his pressers. He said that Breece Hall is already hitting 22 miles per hour on the GPS, which is, that's, if anybody pays attention to that when they do next gen stats and all that, the fastest players on the field, et cetera, 22 is really, really good number. And he says, I'm optimistic he'll be ready for week 1. Now this is where we go back to, you see the Twitter docs and the historical data for players coming off of those types of injuries. And you always just kind of wonder, does this coach speak? Should I really be paying attention to this? How do you guys feel about that quote?
As a Breece Hall owner, I'm excited.
Sure.
But no, I don't think they should rush him.
At it.
Yeah, I don't think they should rush him back at all. He's super young. He has a really bright future ahead of him. If he doesn't come back to game 3 or 4, what's the difference?
Yeah. I definitely agree. I'd prefer him sit, relax, not come back week 1. I hate all the talk about all the guys coming back week 1. I'm same with Javonte, any of these guys, even if they're people, players I don't roster, it's just let them, get their legs up under them and kind of get back into it. I just think that's a mistake. But that being said, it could happen. I saw a video of him running. He looks fine. So, I think by week 1, they're probably going to try to play him. And that's good news. It is good news, but it's just, as somebody who's cautious and risk averse, you really want to see them just kind of slowly let them adjust back into the game because it's going to get intense real quick.
Yeah. The only other thing I think about is this is Breece Hall. He's going to be just fine. He only had 1 year in the league. He's a young dude, right? He's going to be fine. But I think there's a possibility that they do try to put him out there as lead back week 1, and he's lost a step because he's not quite all the way healthy there. Maybe that goes on for through week 2, week 3, and people are like, oh, this just ain't good, and you get a manager owner who's scared, I guess, right? Or scared to hold on. What do they call it? Paper hands in the trading industry. And they're like, oh man, I got to get out on this guy. So maybe you'll be able to, in certain leagues, you'll be able to get one of these guys if they do start week 1 and they're looking a little sluggish. This might be a good opportunity to get a really young, really talented running back who will be better. So
that's a good.
I guess it's kind of a
good idea.
Shitty way to say it, but man, if I really want to get a Breece Hall share at a discount, I hope they do start him week 1, and I hope he falls on his face a little bit.
Well, it's like the J.K. Dobbins syndrome, right?
Yes.
Where he came back, and obviously he I think he even got injured a couple weeks into coming back,
he did.
related or unrelated. But he was super inexpensive at that time, and now he's got a whole bounce back. Like J.K. Dobbins is going to, be a workhorse there. There's nobody else, and the offense is going to be different, and this, that, and the other. Which I'm a J.K. Dobbins fan as much as the next guy, believe me. But I think to your point, that's a really good example of like what you could see happen. He could, just like not look the same immediately, which is fine because he tore his ACL.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think that's a really good point, and you should look out for that and try to find a buy window in there if it's there.
Cool. All right. This is another one from. I pulled some of these from. Again, I mentioned the account on Twitter last week. It's like at 32 NFL beat writers or something like that, right? So they just kind of go over OTA news, camp news, stuff like that. So it's really interesting. Just kind of gives us stuff to talk about at least.
That's true.
Oh, great! Can't wait for this one.
I have the expert here, so this is perfect.
Right,
I said one interesting nugget from Mac Jones's presser on Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. He said those two are going to work as a pair, quote unquote. It might be a different guys at times, but Mike definitely has playmaking ability. I expect we'll see a great deal of 2 tight end sets this season.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm sure.
I think the second quote was from the writer, and the first quote was from Mac Jones himself. So,
yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, it's hype season, isn't it? I just can't get on board with both of these guys being relevant. Even in real football, let alone fantasy. I just don't see how the volume is going to really go there unless Bill finds a way to make this like the bargain brand, Gronkowski and
to say it. Yeah.
No, but like it's obvious they're so bargain brand. Like this is like nickel and dimes. You know what I'm talking about? Like this is not good. So I mean they'll be working as a pair of I don't know what, but they'll be working as a pair for sure.
I mean, you have to have a little excitement for Gesicki.
I mean,
Josh on brand, bro. I love it. I love Gesicki. Always have. Like, I think he's just. I mean, and it was like how they do like National Tight End Day or something in the NFL or Tight End Week, right?
Yeah.
And like they'll always like on the red zone highlight like all the tight end touchdowns, and it's like a big thing. And they had him mic'd up on the sideline, and he's like more like big slot receiver day.
Mm-hmm.
So Gesicki is so like self-aware.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I love that about him. But continue.
I mean, it's hard for me to get excited. Like I'm definitely a pessimistic Patriots fan for sure. So I mean, that's part of it. Like, I don't see how Mac is going to support, the volume we need for those guys to be relevant, especially with Juju, in town. And I think they're just going to try to do a lot of different things, get Tyquan Thornton involved. Mac hasn't really proven to me that he can throw down the seams, which is what we're going to need to do with these guys a little bit. Whenever he does, it doesn't look good. It's usually a pick, overthrow, something I don't want. So I'm a little concerned about, just how it's going to all work out. But listen, I mean, you got something to get excited about. If you want something to be excited about with these tight ends with Mike Gesicki finally, then this is the best situation he's been in because Bill Belichick does love Mike Gesicki. He's talked about him his entire career, and he finally got him over here, and he's going to try to use him. That's for sure. We hope.
Yeah. It's a little reminiscent. We won't talk about it much more, but it is a little reminiscent like last, not 2 years ago.
2 seasons ago?
Yeah, it was COVID year when Belichick went crazy during the draft or free agency. And he brought in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, and everyone's like, here we go. It's, Gronk and Hernandez.
Oh, God.
So here it goes again, right?
But I mean, listen, if they paid Gesicki what they paid Jonnu Smith, I would have been a little happier. Like, Jonnu Smith had never proven anything, and he paid him like 4 years, like $50 million or something insane. Yeah. So that was a lot. I'm a lot more excited about this than I was about that pairing. I mean, Hunter Henry has been really good in this offense, but again, like
he is good, yeah.
If they're gonna split the 10 touchdowns that he got that 1 year or whatever it was, then I don't think we're gonna be as happy as we think we are with either of these tight ends. You know what I'm saying? Like we need one of them to be a lot better than the other, unfortunately, and you're gonna have to. it might be a week-to-week thing, or maybe one is more, and maybe they go Hunter Henry, you block more, and Gesicki, you're going to be the guy who gets most of the targets, you know? But, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how it's going to work out for fantasy. I don't like it.
All right. Well, I guess one more thing. Tyquan Thornton. You see the videos? You think he's going to be a thing?
I don't know. I don't think I saw a video of Tyquan Thornton.
Mac Jones, it was like the hype for like, I don't know, at least an hour and a half this morning.
A whole hour and a half.
You know how it works. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have?
I'm looking it up right now.
He was drafted in the first, right?
No, second round. Early second.
Early second. Yeah. So.
Oh, I'm seeing it right now. This bomb. Oh, okay. Wide open, nobody covering him. Yeah, great, fantastic. I mean, the guy is a walking stick. Like,
wait, really quick. Speaking of wide open, nobody covering them. Did you guys see the Tampa Bay QB battle?
Oh, what? Oh my god!
They could not hit
the broadside
anybody.
of a barn, bro. Those guys. Oh my, that's bad. Like Baker Mayfield looks pretty bad, and Kyle Trask looks like 6'5", 260 pounds of bad, or whatever he is. Like all bad. Like they can't. These guys are 10 yards away from them, and they can't hit him. It's bad.
Like I legit think I could do better. Yeah, I don't know. That whole Tampa Bay offense, just God. Moving on. Rookie Luke Schoonmaker dealing with plantar fasciitis. Dallas's new fancy tight end. Anything to be concerned about? I'm not really sure. I know that dudes have played with plantar fasciitis for a while. Amari Cooper's done it for damn near his whole career. As a Cowboys fan, I'm not really worried about it because we have two other second-year tight ends that I think are probably actually going to outproduce Schumacher in the first place, even if Schumacher was 100% healthy.
Yeah.
But as a Schumacher owner, rosterer, whatever, but it is what it is, right? So like you draft these tight ends, especially if they're not drafted in the first round in Dynasty, it's like the whole goal is just to put them on your taxi and just kind of let them blossom, right? There should be a rule for taxi, like only first-year players except for tight ends. Tight ends could sit for 3 years because that's basically what it takes. So you can't be concerned about that, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, you're not looking for production this year, so if he's going to be good, I don't think this is going to hinder him from being good or taking the role at some point.
All right, so praise for Stroud.
Yeah, I just saw something come across the Twitter ticker saying that he's like instantly taken over the starting role, and Davis Mills is no more.
I was gonna say that's not hard to do, but
yeah,
David Mills will be starting for Tampa this year. Watch.
Oh, okay. I like it.
He's probably better than Baker or Trask. Yeah, it's that's good, I guess, for Stroud, and the amount of capital they give up to him, you have to think they want to try to push him out there. I for almost literally no reason whatsoever have liked Davis Mills because I think it was like his rookie season is really what it did for me. Is like when it comes to passer rating, interception, touchdown ratio, passing yards, everything else. When Davis Mills came in there, he was like he outperformed Trevor Lawrence. He was one of the best quarterbacks, period, on like one of the worst teams in the entire league. So I was like, the hope in me. I mean, I know that Billy's probably mad at me because we roster him and Debbie, and I made him like hold on to him because I'm insane.
Well, what kind of offers did you turn down for him?
Oh, we didn't have any, but
I
just
it was can I please go after Jalen Hurts? And he was like, no,
that too.
It's Mills. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
Wow.
Hey, I didn't say I was good at this. No. But yeah, no, it makes sense that Stroud would be getting in there early. It absolutely makes sense from a GM standpoint, coach standpoint, whoever drafted him, whoever's job is attached to that decision.
Yeah,
you got to get him out there. So
Yeah.
if he's looking good doing it, that's awesome, because this is be one of those teams that will be able to buy pieces forward cheaply moving forward. If he does become good, just like you can't do it now with Cincinnati, but you could have 2 years ago. You can't really do it now with Miami, but you could have like 2 years ago. And I think that we've talked about this before, really trying to get ahead on the up and coming offenses and then trying to get those pieces while they're still cheap. And so if CJ Stroud starts looking good, this is a good sign for us in Dynasty. It's another team we could kind of pick from, right? As teams like LA Rams fade off, there's only really like one player you really want, two players you really want. And it was like 3 years ago, you wanted everybody. Right. So out with the old and with the new.
If we want to bring it full circle, I think I saw a report about DeAndre Hopkins being okay with heading back to Houston, maybe. Now that would definitely, like, I don't buy it really, because like, why? But yeah. I mean, maybe they
could pay him.
I was about to say, I don't know their cap situation, but I assume they could pay him a lot of money, and then he can go and help CJ Stroud build, and maybe he likes Stroud, and then that makes Stroud a lot more appealing. And obviously he's the target leader there instantly, like right 25-30% target share, easy stud. So yeah, there's that's a whole interesting situation too. But I guess my point there is just thinking about, like, you know, Marquise Brown could end up there next year. Like anybody could end up there next year. So, you know, there's a lot of pieces to kind of these guys who you might not want right now, you know, like Marquise Brown, like you should want some of these guys and get them cheap and, you know, hope that they end up in these kind of situations, but definitely pick from there. I mean, Dalton Schultz is probably really cheap in Dynasty. I hear a lot of the redraft podcasts talking him up a little bit, and I'm like, all right, maybe he's one of those guys that, you know, is on that team that could get a lot of targets from them that we could pick from. So there's some guys for sure.
That's actually some really good advice, is looking at the upcoming free agent class and trying to buy some of those guys cheaply that you think could blossom on a new team.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously some of the situations
that's an episode right there.
Yeah. Boom. Content. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We can do that.
Cool. And yeah, you know, Schultz, he was a guy that could like earn the second, you know, be the second target on a team already. Like he's proven that. So that is interesting. All right, let's move on. So Billy had some thoughts after I kind of botched the ADP thing for a week, but we'll get back to it next week once I get my ish together. But here's some drafting thoughts, and I thought we could just talk about these before we hop into trades. Should be fun. So how do you guys feel about drafting players you don't love but hold market value? And this could just go, you know, either startups, rookie drafts, or whatever. Say you're in a rookie draft and there's a player you're not exactly super high on, but you can't trade back, don't want to trade back, or you know that, hey, other people really want this player, but nobody's willing to move up, or they're asleep because they're in Australia, etc., which we've seen.
Damn.
You know what I mean? I mean, we're in a lot of international leagues ourselves here, so that does happen.
Oh, yeah.
But would you ever draft a player, startup, rookie, just because you know the market's high on them, and then try to make the push to do the work to get a player you do want or value back that you do want?
I mean, I think the biggest thing in doing that is knowing when to sell him. Because if you think he has this huge high market value and you're holding out for that, you never know what's around the corner and how quickly that could crash, and then you wasted your pick.
Yeah, I'm definitely a little hesitant to do that. Like it's just it creates more work for yourself, obviously, right? Like obviously maybe there's not a player you want, you can't trade back, but I always feel like there's an option that I'm okay with instead of one that I'm not. But that said, I'm just kind of like looking at an example here of, you know, I'm on Bulletproof ADP looking at Kendre Miller and Jonathan Mingo going before Keenan Allen in the 9th round, before Darren Waller, you know, and I guess that, you know, I'm just kind of looking at opportunity is my point. And can I draft one of these rookies that I'm not a big fan of? Like I don't hate Jonathan Mingo. I'm warming up to him for sure. Kendre Miller, wasn't a big fan of him pre-draft. Good landing spot, decent draft capital. So there's you know, reasons to buy into these pieces for me, even though I don't like them. And then I look at it and I can say, all right, yeah, I could probably sell them too. So you know what I mean? So it's definitely possible. It's just something I don't typically do because it creates more work for myself than I feel like it needs to at times. Yeah. And I wouldn't trade those guys 1-to-1 necessarily or anything like that, because you don't have to. You can get on top of it, I imagine.
Yeah. I think the startup situation, with rookies in it, makes a little more sense, where you can take like a Mingo, who I'm just not high on at all. But if there's a guy that's getting picked like 8 spots later, maybe take Mingo and then try to do the work to get the guy plus.
I mean,
but again,
here's
it's just extra work.
Here, I'm looking at this again. Sorry to jump in, but I think this is a better example. Looking at Rachaad White in the 7th, right? At 7-10, Rachaad White's going right now. Like, this guy's not long for a starting fantasy role for you, and he's not going to be a running back 1 for long, if at all. Maybe an okay running back 2, and probably not that for that long either. So, but he's going just after Geno Smith, before Marquise Brown.
Yeah.
Like that might be, that's crazy to me, but am I going to be able to draft him and actually sell him for those pieces? Like, I feel like that I don't know if I am. And that's part of the dilemma. And I just think that there's a lot of risk in doing that, because I think people can do that and it feel good during the draft. But once you see it in a trade, or you're like, Rachaad White over Marquise Brown. I don't know about that.
I feel like before we judge that, you also have to look at the roster construction of that team that's picked him. Because if he went super tight or wide receiver heavy in the beginning, you never know.
Yeah. That's just personally not how I draft. Like, I'm gonna go better player every time that has longevity. Like, I'm not like, I won't draft Rachaad White because like I went 0 running back and he's there in the 7th. Like, I'm gonna actually hope somebody drafts him so that I can draft Marquise Brown. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I approach it, or whatever other players fall. So yeah, like, I think that's, it's definitely very risky.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Just like Josh had mentioned earlier, it's just there's a lot of risk. You could really be just like left holding the bag. Yeah. And the one thing I remember, like, was it Dan, Dynasty Nitros? I'm in one of his Dynasty leagues, right? We did a startup, and I think it was like the 3rd round. Must have been like the 3rd round. Wouldn't be the 2nd, but it was kind of early. But Cam Akers was sitting there, and he kind of came off like a couple good games at the end of the season, his first season back from the Achilles, and I'm like, there's so much hype behind Cam Akers before, and he kind of finished the season like decently. I don't want anything to do with him. If I'm gonna pick him up, I bet I could trade him. He's still on my roster. Nobody wants him. I couldn't get anything extra above what I already paid for him in the startup. Maybe now, since there's not a lot of competition there, I still might be able to do it, but it's been a whole year where I've been having Cam Akers on my roster and starting him and just hating my life. So
this will be the year. This will be the year.
This could be the year. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. But
this is
so you could really get stuck holding the bag on that. So if there's a player, in my opinion, if there's a player you're iffy on, if not sure about, there's another guy just a pick or two later. Forget ADP. Just grab your guy that you do want or do have faith in. Unless you're just really, really, really active and like a really good trader, then go for it. But I don't got time for that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I want to see where Deontay Johnson is in relation to our old buddy here that I was just talking about.
Rachaad
White. Yeah, he's going after Rachaad White also. Like, there you go. It's mind blowing.
So yeah, draft Rachaad and try to get Deontay plus, or just be stuck with Rachaad. I don't know.
Or just get one of the other guys. That's not Rachaad White. Just you don't have to. You do not have to force players like that. I promise you don't have to do it.
Yeah, you don't have to stick to ADP all the way. Okay, next one: trading a pick while on the clock versus after the draft, and trading for the same player that pick became.
So, like, okay.
Explain yourself, sir.
So when you're on the clock, right, and somebody says, like, I want a 24 first for pick 3, whatever, middle of the 3rd round startup pick or middle of the 4th round startup pick or something like that, right? And you're like, I don't know about that, right? That pick ends up becoming Cooper Kupp, and after the draft, somebody sends you Cooper Kupp for your 24 first. or whatever, like the same deal, right? They send you the same deal, but it's the actual player. And then you're like, yeah, no, that deal works. You know what I mean? It also may have to do with your roster construction post draft. Like you might see your team and say, wow, like, yeah, no, this player really works for my team now. But I just kind of wanted to talk through that dynamic of like, of kind of thinking through the difference between, you know, the unknown of the pick that you're kind of buying, which could be anything of your selection, or it's the same pick that you kind of, because I think this just happened to me. I rejected a trade offer. The pick became Cooper Kupp. I didn't even know. I just, you know, this happened like so far apart. Yeah. The other manager actually just like mentioned it to me after it happened. And I was like, that's really interesting. Like I denied the trade before. I think it was 24 first and second for Cooper Kupp. And that was offered to me when he was on the clock. And I denied. And then post draft, he offered me the player and I accepted it.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. So
interesting.
Yeah. when you're on the clock, especially in the startup, rookie draft is different. You kind of have it's going to be like one of three players at most, really. I mean, yeah. Well, yeah, I noticed in rookie drafts, we don't mess around too much until like way later. Like your first round is chalk. Most of the second round is pretty chalk. In a startup, there's a lot of wriggle room. So like if you already had Kupp, like in a okay, so you already have an established team. This is not even a startup, and you have Cooper Kupp, and someone said, "Hey, 24 first and second." You're probably like, "All right, I'll do that." But you got offered a first for your own.
I got offered Kupp. Kupp. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was the other way around.
Yeah, and so
but either way,
it just makes a lot more sense when you have a player's name to go with it. And also, I mean, this kind of goes back. This is really going off the rails, but I'm just thinking here. When you're on the clock in like a rookie draft,
we're already off the rails.
I can't help myself. So
we're way off the rails here.
say you have the 108, but like you're in the middle of the rookie draft and you're only at 104 in the draft, and someone sends you an offer for the 108. Like,
okay,
in almost no instance are you like, yeah, I'm gonna take that because you're let me see who's there, right?
Right,
sure,
right.
Sure,
so there's that whole thing, especially if you're a little risk adverse, like you want to know. So making that deal to get Kupp or sell Kupp away, at least you know exactly what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest part of it now that I'm kind of talking through it is. To me, it's a little more advantageous to not buy startup picks while you're in the startup for your futures because you don't know what your team, you don't know what your team's going to look like. Like anything can happen in a draft. All the good players could be, I've had drafts where they're just like, where'd they all go? And I've had drafts where like, it's the 12th round and this guy's still here. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like different things happen in every draft. So I think, for what it is that post draft, my team is a certain way. That deal makes a lot more sense for me to jump up and buy an aged veteran who's going to score me points when, I could have jumped up and got a totally different player, just reached for a guy that I didn't need to reach for, whatever it was. I could have done so many different things at that time and it probably wouldn't have been go Cooper Kupp. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. It's a lot more advantageous if you can to hold your futures, unless you're just making like a really smooth deal, really slick, and you're kind of just stealing value. Then obviously do whatever you want. If you're going up, jumping into the first, sure, but I don't think you need to do that for like the third round kind of guys before you know what they are and what your team is. I think that's the point. We got there somehow.
Yeah,
we got it.
Kind of the difference between accepting futures for a pick that's coming up of yours, and then say you end up, instead of picking in 4 picks, now you're picking in 16 picks. But hey, you got a 24 second back, and you get 16 picks later. You're like, shit, there's nobody here that I want, and you realize at the end of the draft, you're like, wow, this team looks like more like a rebuild, like versus there's a player that's still on the clock that you've seen has fallen. And you try to move up 8 spots, maybe sending your futures to get the guy that you think is being heavily undervalued makes a lot more sense. So there's just a lot of nuance there. Just a lot of nuance there. That's a really good discussion. I don't know if we nailed it or not, but yeah.
Oh, we definitely didn't nail it, but we got something with that.
I'm still trying to figure out. Like, there's got to be a situation where doing one or the other makes a lot more sense. So
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's definitely situations where either would make sense, but as far as constructing a team, like I just think it's easier to hold on to your. I try not to move futures as much as I can during a startup, and kind of assess everything afterward, because I think a lot of people buy futures because they're cheaper in the startup when people are trying to move around, jump up, get vets, get win now mode, but you don't know that it's going to work out with your team. So I just don't think it's smart to do that.
cool. And this last one actually kind of feeds off of what we were just talking about. Maybe we'll come up with something a little more actionable here. But so how do you guys feel about drafting for a rebuild, which, people call like the productive struggle? Essentially fading first year and acquiring draft picks for next year, or drafting to win now, taking into considering that future picks are going to be involved no matter how you do it. Like, when you're going into a startup, like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it goes back to kind of, what was it, the first thing we talked about here? Yeah, drafting players you don't love. Like, I don't want to create more work for myself if I don't have to necessarily. And I think going the productive struggle route obviously does that, because now you have to kind of devise a way to build a team, right? Whereas for me, if I can try to build a balanced win now team, which is going to have some youth involved in that, a core couple, maybe 2 to 4 players that are going to hold down the fort no matter what happens, right? And kind of be able to construct a roster around them. I think that it's a lot easier to continue to stay competitive, churn, and rebuild, right? But in shorter windows, when you start from a more win now type team, because when you try to do a win now type team, you're really trying to accrue the most value and the most points, right? Like that's really the objective. I personally, when I go and build a win now team, I don't just sell out for vets. Like, I just don't think that makes sense. You don't have to. There's also players with plenty of years left that are acquirable in a startup. So,
Right.
I don't think you need to draft for a rebuild. It can be fun if like you just want to have fun and do that, and like that's just what you're feeling. Like, by all means, like have at it. Like, it is fun to rebuild, but I just prefer to do it from a win now perspective, because at some point you're going to have to rebuild that team anyway.
Right. No, I think you said it best. Pick a couple key players that you could build around and go ahead and rock and roll with it.
Yeah, Josh, like I've seen, I'm in quite a few leagues with you. I see that you when it comes to future picks, you don't really care. During the startups, are you more inclined to just sell futures to get the players you want, or are you? I don't see you ever doing the productive struggle. Like, I see you always going win now, which I mean I love. But
win now and trying to get the pieces that could return value.
Yeah. I love that.
I mean, I try to have teams that are going to last for a while, especially like in 3-year windows type thing. And then year by year, you basically look at your team and say which ones are going to lose value. Like Mike Williams is one. Mike Williams, maybe him too, but Mike Evans is one. Mike Evans is one this year that I've had on a couple rosters that I've tried to and have gotten rid of. And again, the teams that I have him on, for the most part, the other players I have, like I'll have a number of other wide receivers that are young enough where I'm not concerned about maybe giving up a little value and moving Mike Evans to get off of him before he has no value, Right. So I try to construct the roster in that way. I just think that's the best. But you see, I don't trade the picks during the startup most of the time. I do try to hold them after, no matter what. Like, I don't think I did that in any of the DU leagues.
Nope.
So I do like my picks, but I don't mind moving them because when I get good value. So they're just tools for me, just like in Debbie. They're just tools to kind of, acquire great players. But like, I only do it when I'm going to get really good value on those picks. That's the objective, right? Like, don't give them up for nothing. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Excellent.
my whole thing is I'd rather have a player now that I know of versus the future when you don't know what you're going to get. We've seen so many flops in the draft and everything. And we've seen also so many great players you could grab off the waivers after the original draft is over.
That's true.
So I much rather trade my picks away and grab a player I know, which we'll talk about a trade later on, where I did that, where I know I like him. All the talk out of camp is good. So I'd rather push my chips out, grab him now, and hope for the best.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't always work out, but you can get your picks back a lot of the time. Like in Console Wars, I got like 3 first back last year when I had none going into the draft. So it's like there's a lot of potential to kind of do whatever you need to do. Now, again, it's not always possible. Now, what you asked me about in the draft, like, am I going to trade up? It's just specifically this point. Like, would I trade future picks to go get players I want? No, I won't. That's why I pick at the turns, and that's what I talked about with like those, the proximity paradox and whatnot, like being on those turns, like at the 11, 12 or the 1-2 spot allows you to kind of be a value hawk and just take what comes to you, double hit on the values that fall. And not really reach for guys. Right? I never want to do that if I don't have to, because like you're almost always giving up value when you say, oh, I got to go and get this guy. Like, you're going to give up value doing that most of the time. And I don't want to have to go get a guy. So I try to stay away from that mindset in general.
Yeah. I think I'm much more likely to reach for a guy that like, quote unquote, shouldn't be drafted until like maybe the next round versus sending future assets to move up to get a guy. So fun. Yeah, that's just some drafting thoughts. Just talking it out, guys. Just talking it out.
Yeah.
Let's hit into some trades and non-trades. I don't have any, so this is all you guys.
All right. So wouldn't help if I put the second part of this trade on here.
He got it for free.
Yeah.
I love it.
Sweet. Great trade.
Wanted Treylon Burks in the league pretty badly. My wide receiver group was not the best, so contacted the owner for there, offered him Corey Davis, a 24th third, a 25th first, and a 25th third, and he accepted it. Very happy with that one. Again, getting rid of the 25th first for a player that is proven and only has a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah. We didn't talk about the other one yet, but yeah, no, that's great. I like that a lot. Burks easily in that deal. 25 first is way out.
Yeah. It's essentially 25 first for Burks. I mean, Corey Davis is not going to do anything.
He's Corey Davis.
He's Corey Davis. Love him. Always rooting for the guy. And then the 24th third, the 25th third. It's the third. I'm completely out on those for the most part. So I like this. I like this trade a lot.
Cool.
Love it. All right, the second one is a trade offer that didn't get done.
Yes.
Isaiah Pacheco, Mike Evans, 405 for Jahmyr Gibbs. Anybody? What? Just thoughts. Thoughts. Josh.
Yeah.
You're trading for Gibbs, right?
I don't want to tell you. No, I don't want to tell you.
I'm gonna have to go the Gibbs side. I mean, I love Pacheco, but
objective analysis, yes.
Yeah, I like Pacheco, but if Gibbs is half what he's been advertised as, you're going to want Gibbs on that side of it. And Evans, as I'm learning, you could barely get anything for him right now, no matter how hard you fucking try. And the 405 is the fourth rounder. So
yeah. This is me and Billy's Debbie team. We're trying to get rid of Mike Evans.
Yeah. The response from the manager, there's Ben actually, which I knew is just not going to work when the manager.
It's hard to change him. Yeah.
Ben Sharp.
Yeah.
But he said send me a good trade for Gibbs. That's the response he had for us.
Oh my god.
But I just wonder how far off it is. Like, because I mean, not. I mean, I know it's far off. Let me not say that. I know it's far off.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering because I think Pacheco has pretty high market value.
He does.
So,
sure.
like Pacheco and Evans seems like it would hold like fairly decent value. So like what would need to be added to that to get to Gibbs? I mean, is it just that like Gibbs is that elite of an asset at this point?
No, I don't think so. But two things. One is I think if Evans had an actual quarterback, then we might be having a different conversation here, but I don't think anybody's expecting him to put up another 1,000-yard season if he stays with Tampa Bay this year. So, yeah, I just
the streak is broken.
But okay. No, I think like Pacheco, that's probably Pacheco in a second might get it done.
Plus Mike Evans? Or you just think Pacheco in a second? There's no way Pacheco in a second gets it done for Jahmyr Gibbs.
With Evans. I think if you bump the fourth to a second.
Yeah, maybe. And in the Devy league, it might be a Devy player, but even then, it's probably not a Devy player. So maybe
we'll keep trying.
Yeah, we'll try. I don't know. Is there another player like another running back that would be worth this deal? That's like worth doing this. Like, could you go get Travis Etienne type range?
I think I would rather have Pacheco and Evans in that team. So.
Oh my goodness! All right, this is what I'm dealing with. This is why we can't get anywhere in this Devy league. Like it's battling. It's like,
well,
I'm fighting myself. All right. Yeah, move on. What's this last one?
All right. Traded away Devin Chain, Hendon Hooker for Bellinger, a 25th first, then 24 fourth and fifth. 24 fourth and
Wait,
fifth.
Did you trade away A-Chain?
No, I said traded away Bellinger.
Oh, okay. I thought you said the other way. Okay, so you got A-Chain, Hendon Hooker. Okay.
Yep. For Bellinger, a 25th first, then 24 whatevers. So basically, it's the 20. What? It's a fucking 24 fourth and fifth. What am I supposed to say?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's just funny.
I mean, basically, the trade is Bellinger and the 25th first for the two players.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like this trade for you. I like this trade. I like Devin Chain and Hendon Hooker here. Yeah.
I was reading it backwards, and I was kind of like, "What are you doing here?" No, it's good. Just I think because I saw Bellinger there, and I'm like, "Well, I know you really like Bellinger." So it's a 25 first, 24 picks that you probably don't want in the first place.
Yeah. And
a tight end who's going to have to probably sit a year before he does anything again for your boy A-Chain and Hendon Hooker, who hopefully turns into something. Yeah, I mean, say if, A-Chain finishes, top 20 and Hooker starts playing next year, this is an absolute smash. But it's 25th first. Like, I don't even have any names for you. I mean, not really. Nick Singleton, but
unless you're, I mean, Zach Wright. No, that's not even. No, there's actually, who's in that draft class? Jeez,
Manning's what 26.
Roma Dunze. Who?
Oh, Arch.
Manning. Yeah,
Arch.
Manning's 26. Yeah. Either way, I don't know. You're hoping in 25 that your team is still competitive and that 25 first is late. And even then, like I said to you earlier, A-Chain's going back of the first, early second. That's essentially a 25 first, right?
Right. Early 25 first, yeah.
So then Bellinger and the other stuff for Hendon Hooker, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's a great trade.
Yeah. And the best thing about it, whatever draft this is, rookie draft, you don't have to draft your fourth and fifth round.
This is DU3.
And then just have to roster manage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this was DU3. This is Dynasty Underdog list for 3.
Yeah.
Shout out.
No, and the
we
thing
have 5 rounds.
Do we?
I thought 4.
I thought it was a third and a fourth, but Billy put a fourth. Yeah.
Oh, I put this. I don't know. Yeah.
That's the other reason I was confused. That's the other reason I was confused when I was reading it. I was like, wait a minute, I just put everything backwards.
Yeah, I mean it's like a third and a fourth. I think I miswrote that.
Where is it?
But yeah, I like the trade for you. Absolutely.
Oh no, it's 20. Okay, so it's Bellinger, a 25th first, 24 fourth, and 25th fourth.
Oh, okay.
But still,
same difference.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah. Cool. Good trade.
Thank you.
Cool. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
That's it for me.
Cool. Cool.
All right. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Dynasty Underdog. Follow us on Twitter at Dynasty Underdog, at Uriah Dawkins, at Willie Beamy DFF, and at Josh M. Goldberg 92. Follow us on Discord. And again, go Heat, go Cats.
What?
Get out of here. Later, fam.
Later.
Peace.